How do you improve your soil by using organic materials? One great method is sheet mulching. Even the toughest of soils can be improved over time, and even tough soils can grow things too. But if you want to grow a wider range of things, you might do well to improve the quality of your soil, because the quality of your soil directly affects the quality of your crops, and soil actually plays a larger and more important role than most people realize. By the time you're done watching this video, you will have learned what sheet mulching is and how you can apply it to your garden. This technique has improved the quality of my garden greatly. When I first moved here about 4 years ago, there really wasn't a garden at all, and the soil was very tough. I have very clay soil. And over the years, every year, I've just been applying the sheet mulching technique, and there's still room for improvement, but it's definitely a lot loamier, a lot lighter, and I notice that what I do grow, it's better quality. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. I have one warning for you when it comes to sheet mulching, and that is that I would avoid using this technique too close to your home, because we are using layers of mulch, so things like dead leaves and wood chips and sawdust, and all of these, yes, they can attract beneficial organisms to your garden, but they can also attract termites, and that's definitely something that you don't want close to your home. So I would leave a space of at least 6 to 12 inches in between the outside of your house and any area where you're going to be applying this technique. Sheet mulching ranges anywhere from having a simple two-step process where you take a weed suppressing barrier such as newspaper or cardboard, and then you top it with the second layer, which is mulch. But it can also grow to be something more complex, where it has multiple layers, and you might even repeat this set of layers over and over again. I love that this technique can be scaled up or down, either horizontally or vertically. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that it can be scaled horizontally in that the space that you're using can be either small or large. You can start with a small garden bed, or you can work your way up to a larger plot of land if you want. It can also be scaled vertically in that, as I mentioned before, it can be a simple two-step process, or you can have a multi-layer system. You can even repeat this set of layers over and over again. You might have heard this term called lasagna gardening for obvious reasons. Now let's take a look at a more complex version of sheet mulching. And this is something where some of the layers, you need quite a bit of material because it has to be at least a couple inches thick. Not for all of them, but for some of them. So it's better to, if you're working with a limited amount of materials, stick with a smaller space as opposed to trying to skimp on materials and spread them out over a larger space. Because if you do this, then some of the areas won't be properly fed and they won't have the weeds sufficiently suppressed. So it really is better to go with a smaller area if you are working with a limited quantity of materials. So this is my plot of land here that I'm using, and first, if you have clay or highly impacted soil, it's nice to go along with a garden fork and gently aerate it. So again, you're not turning over the soil, but you're just putting the fork in a little bit and gently rocking it back and forth. So do that across the whole area. And this green kind of represents any vegetation that's already growing. You don't need to pull it out and disturb the root system. You can just cut it off at ground level and just chop it, drop it, leave it in place. Okay, so we're ready to begin. So first, what you're going to want to add is a thin layer of something that's high in nitrogen. So for this layer, just trying to think about how I'm going to put this down here. This layer is going to be comprised of anything from grass clippings to bone meal. You could do anything like manure too, would be really great. See, I get a little obsessed with this. So yes, so that is your layer of nitrogen there. And this is going to be your thin layer. So just barely covering the ground. This nitrogen layer will help attract certain critters like worms that will burrow down, and they'll help to aerate the soil even further. Okay, next step. Now is when you could put down a layer of weed blocking material. And this can be something like, wrong marker. This could be something like newspaper or cardboard, something like that. Hopefully you get the idea. You know, and you can even use something like organic cloth too. That would work really nicely here. And what you want to do is, if you're working with things like sheets of newspaper or cardboard, you want to overlap them almost like a tiling effect, and you want to make sure that the overlap is at least 6 inches. Otherwise, you know, the sunlight and these plants are really persistent, and they will find a way through any even small crack in your weed barrier. So that is the next layer that we put on here. Oh. And another tip for this layer is that you want to have a garden hose nearby so that you can wet this down really well, because it's going to absorb a lot of moisture, and it's hard because you're stacking multiple layers, it's going to be really hard for natural rainfall to even penetrate this layer. And if you don't water it, then there's a good chance you could have the opposite effect and kind of wick away moisture from whatever's underneath it, which is the opposite effect that you're trying to achieve. Next, you could put down another thin layer of nitrogen-rich material. So whatever you used before should be fine here too. So let's just kind of recreate that here. Again, this was just enough to cover the ground. Okay, I think you get the idea. So this is another nitrogen layer. And it's thin. Can you read that? You can read that, right? Okay. Next, you're going to add a lot of mulch, like 8 to 12 inches worth. So this can be, how do I want to illustrate this here? Oh, squiggly lines always work. I mean, I'm no Bob Ross, but now this material can be anything from dead leaves, it could even be seaweed, you could use wood chips, wood shavings, straw or hay. It doesn't matter, they say, if it has seeds in this layer. So don't be too concerned with that. The reason being is that this layer tends to stay very damp. And because of that, any seeds that are contained in this layer tend to just rot. So you don't have to worry about it as much. So also, because you have that garden hose I mentioned, you should be wetting down this mulch every, 2 to 3 inches or so that you apply. You should be watering it down. Again, you want to achieve a dampness to it. You don't want it to be like sopping wet, but it's important that this layer does stay moist. Now you want to add 1 to 2 inches of compost. If you do not have enough compost for this space, you can supplement it with the surrounding soil in your area. Okay, so this is our compost. And 1 to 2 inches. Finally, you're going to add 2 to 3 inches of weed and seed-free material, such as straw, sawdust, or wood shavings. And this is going to be your final layer. seed-free material. And that's 2 to 3 inches worth. This is an example of a more complex version of sheet mulching. One additional factor that you'll want to consider before deciding upon which sheet mulching technique you're going to use is how long before you intend on planting in that space. Sheet mulching can range anywhere from doing this in a late fall season, letting it sit through the winter, and then planting something in the spring, all the way up to a few years, several years before you think you'll be planting something on a plot of land. The reason you need to keep this in mind is that typically the more layers that you have, the longer it will take to break down. So for example, if you're planning on using a plot of land to plant in a couple months, you don't want to put 10, 12, 15 layers down because they probably won't be broken down and ready in time for you to use it. If you're looking to improve your soil or you're having trouble getting certain crops to grow, then the technique of sheet mulching is certainly worth a try. You can really tailor it to suit your needs. Another technique you could consider is using cover crops. And in this video coming up here, I will go over the different types of cover crops and I'll walk you through step by step how to select which cover crops are right for your soil. I'll see you soon.